Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names.
Welcome to our 75th anniversary interviews. We're here with Katie Willman, and daughter of the church, and talk about what her experiences have been here. So how did you join the church? How did you come into it?
All right. Well, originally, the whole family, we joined back in the early 90s.
Oh, okay.
I think I was in second or third grade.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I've been a part of the congregation for close to 30 years in some form or fashion.
Wow.
And then attended all the way through. I graduated from Indiana Wesleyan, so I was able to continue to attend throughout college.
Oh, okay.
And then moved away and went to the seminary in St. Louis and lived down in St. Louis for several years, and Indianapolis for my Deaconess internship, and then was in Wisconsin for over 7 years. So
Okay.
I was gone for a good decade.
Oh, okay. And you are a deaconess.
I am a deaconess
Yes.
in the Lutheran Church,
Yes.
Missouri Synod. So yeah, I had the opportunity to be here for a long time, but then live in some different places, different states, and then back in 2017, almost exactly 8 years ago now.
Oh.
This week, 8 years, it's flown by. I moved back to take on my current position as the executive director at the Pregnancy Help Center. So
Okay.
moved back to Marion and was able to jump back in and join St. James again as an adult now,
Yeah.
and a member, and have been here ever since. So it's been, I never anticipated coming back to Indiana, let alone Marion. I wasn't expecting that, but coming back and being able to join St. James again has really added to making that a really, really positive experience for me. And it's really been a joy to be here in a way I never would have anticipated. So
Yeah.
getting to come back and be with familiar faces, people who not only have known me pretty much my whole life, but have known my dad his whole life,
Right.
since he grew up here in Marion as well. So yeah, it's been a real blessing and a joy to be back again as an adult member of the congregation.
Yeah. And so you're a deaconess, and you have a brother that's a pastor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Sean.
both of us raised here and had the opportunity to, I studied at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, and he went to Concordia in Fort Wayne. So we split up and had both experiences. But yeah, so it's a blessing also to have now been able to serve and experience ministry as well.
Yeah. So what positions and things have you done at St. James?
So when I moved back to Marion, I was able to, alongside my mom and dad, join the choir with Linda Kretzinger as our faithful director. And for several years, that was just a really fun, joyful experience. Being in the alto section alongside Pat Tudor and Barb Strasser, and people who had been singing together for decades, and again, familiar faces, people who have known and cared about me for so long, just to get to have fun and sing and create things together was really enjoyable. I also currently serve on the Family Life Committee.
Yes.
you recently asked me to jump in onto the publicity team.
Right,
so that's
right.
a new adventure taking on. And then this past fall, I started, I would say, apprenticing under the Jervises, taking over the banners
Yes,
and
yes.
starting to learn that and to take on that job of kind of keeping and maintaining and switching the banners seasonally and for different church holidays. So those are the main things I do. And then at different times, and I've filled in with Sunday school, but right now I'm kind of the substitute teacher for Tom Shabo with our middle school Sunday school
okay.
class. So I get to hang out with those 5th and 6th graders off and on.
That's pretty cool. Well, what are some people that had a big impact on you here?
Well, like I said, I've been around St. James for nearly 30 years in one form or fashion, so there are too many to name and to share. I've been so blessed to have a lot of mentors and a lot of just a lot of people who have modeled for me faithful church membership and service within the church and the community. I would say, I know from many other interviews, lots of people have brought up Phil Roselle.
Yes.
But having grown up in Sunday school in the youth group here in that era, Phil was a huge figure in my faith formation and just my youth in general in the St. James congregation. He taught me so much, and we used to give him a really hard time when we were middle school and high school youth because he had very set ways of doing things and, had a protocol and a procedure for everything, which we, ribbed him about. But now as an adult looking back, I am blown away by it. He was one of the most organized people I have ever known, and there was a purpose behind everything he did and how he did things, and he cared so deeply about that faith formation and the education of the whole congregation at all stages, and I have so much respect for that. Far more now as an adult than I did at the time, but he was such a huge model of education and lifelong Christian education. I still remember him teaching us why we make the sign of the cross and that's a remembrance of our baptism.
Oh, sure.
And often when I'm doing that, I think of Phil. Also Linda Kretzinger, just all the years of her beautiful talent that she shared with us. But like I said, coming back right away, back to the congregation when I moved back, getting to be a part of the choir with her. One of my favorite memories is, I think it was Easter 2019, we did our last kind of big choir cantata, and we had multiple pieces of music that we spread throughout Holy Week and for Easter. And I still have the CD, I never gave it back, of all the songs, and it's in my car, and lots of times I'll just pop it in and sing through those again. Like this past Lent, I'll pull it out again and sing through those songs as I'm driving around because it's just wonderful memories. And she, again, just brought a lot of joy to sharing of our talents in the congregation. But she was very talented in what she did as well. Yeah. I would say another huge one is my mom.
Oh, yeah.
I can't, just because she's my mom doesn't mean I can't mention her. She taught the 7th and 8th grade confirmation Sunday school class for decades. So she was my Sunday school teacher through those years as well. But also every confirmation retreat, she was there keeping us on task and keeping us engaged. And just such a mentor and a model, and also an amazing an amazing encourager, and got a lot of youth through confirmation, and but helped us have fun with it too, and answered some of those burning questions of the middle school years and the angst that comes along with that. So she's been hugely impactful for me, but I think a lot of others as well. And then Pastor Carlson, because he was he was the pastor here throughout all of my time here as a youth.
Oh, sure.
And he was very encouraging. And when I was in college and contemplating what was going to be next and contemplating wanting to dig into my my faith deeper and study theology, and the thought of going to the seminary seemed kind of way out in left field, or very I didn't know anyone who was a deaconess or who had studied in that way as a female in the church, and so he was very encouraging and very helpful in connecting me to the people in our church district that I would need to talk to and through the application process, but also just not even blinking an eye about of course you can do that. We'll figure it out, and encouraging me through that process, and very thankful for that. So, yeah.
Just a question on that, because the Deaconess program, I know when I was going through seminary, graduating in '93, it didn't even exist at that point of any size, and so it came back in the early 2000s. It's been a real gift to our church because it kind of came back. So what kind of led you to that? What was your thought process?
It's been an interesting journey. So I studied art therapy when I was in undergrad. That's what my undergraduate degree is in.
Well, that's interesting.
And I went into college with every intention of getting that pre-art therapy degree and then heading off to grad school for licensing as a clinical art therapist.
Oh, okay.
So that was the plan. And I would say my junior year of college, I went to Indiana Wesleyan, so I had lots of opportunities to take, we had to take certain Old Testament, New Testament, some certain Christian life classes and things, and just the community on campus. In some ways, having grown up Lutheran, LCMS Lutheran, I found very frustrating.
Oh, I bet.
And that it was it didn't feel comfortable in some ways, in that I'm not sure I agree with all of this. I'm not sure that this is what I believe. And so it was kind of 4 years of pushing me in little moments and little instances to say, okay, if this is not what I believe, if this is not my faith, then what is it? And is it, LCMS Lutheran that I grew up in, or is it something different? So is that going on at the same time as the art therapy degree at that time was just shy of a full double major in art and psychology.
Oh my goodness.
So, which I enjoyed a lot, but the further I got into those psychology classes and all the prep work of looking towards going to graduate school to be a licensed mental health practitioner, I recognized there is an important place for that and in our lives, but that felt kind of surface level. It was like, if we can help people on a faith level, on an internal level, how much more? I mean, that's far longer lasting than one, clinical session or one therapy session or two or whatever that I could do with someone. And so it kind of pushed me to think about, okay, I want to help people, I want to serve people, but is this the best avenue to use my giftedness and to serve people in the church and so from kind of that struggling a little bit with those thoughts and that I ended up hearing about a deaconess who was serving. It was a pamphlet that was in our bulletin one Sunday, and I was looking through it later that week, and I was like, deaconess? I don't even know what that is. I'm a curious person by nature, so it pushed me to hop on, the LCMS website and to read about what deaconesses are, what their role is in our church, what that can look like, where they can serve. And that led me to the seminary websites and reading about the deaconess programs. And I truly believe it was a prompting from God,
Sure.
because this was over a lunchtime on a random Wednesday, my junior year in college, and I turned to my roommate and said, well, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, wow.
And it was mostly flippantly
Sure.
at that moment. But by the end of the week, I had already called and talked to Dr. Arthur Just, who was the program director at
professors.
at the Fort Wayne program, and chatted with him. I had called my brother Sean, who is still studying at Concordia Mequon, but he was already on the pre-seminary track. And I just said, hey, what do you know about this? You know me. What do you think? And again, like Pastor Carlson, without even taking a breath, was like, yeah, I see that. Yeah. And so really by the end of that week, it was no longer flippant. It was like, okay, what do I have to do to switch gears? And so I was able to finish my art therapy degree with changing out like a couple classes to be able to apply for the seminary. So I am not a spur of the moment person. So to switch gears so profoundly, 3.5 years into more into a plan, it felt like something to listen to and to follow through with. So, so that's how I ended up with a art therapy degree and a practical theology master's, which don't really feel like they fit together, but the Lord has certainly used them for some good along the way.
Sure. Well, good. That's great.
Yeah.
What are some events that maybe have stood out to you in the church since you've been here?
Okay. Well, I'm going to take that question and I wrote down several funny stories or things that popped into my mind from over the years. I think one of my favorite memories or funny memories is way back when Jeffrey Aaron, Katarina Fisher, and Katie Wallace and we were all in the same confirmation class. And for whatever reason, Phil brought us in all on the same day to take our confirmation exams together in his office, which is where your office is now. Okay. So he had us all like set up in different little spots in his office to take this exam, which felt really a little overwhelming because it was a big deal. This is our final exam to see whether we were going to be confirmed or not. And while he was here that day, he was also emptying out like the youth refrigerator. So while we're trying to take this exam, he kept coming in with like half empty or partial already opened 2 liters of pop, like Mountain Dew and all. Then he's just kept bringing them in and is like, you guys, here's some cups, you guys finish this up. I want to clear out the fridge. And so as the time progressed and we'd had more and more pop and we were more sugared up while we're trying to sit and take this exam, we just were giggling and it got louder and more distracted. And I don't know if that was a positive or not, whether it kind of release some of those nerves and we could focus and just take the exam, or whether it hindered us or not. But we all did pass the exam and we're all confirmed. But that was definitely one of my favorite moments of the 4 of us stuck together trying to concentrate and finish up all the leftover pop from who knows how long. One of my other events that was a big deal is being able to go to the National Youth Gathering. My year we went to New Orleans. And it was also all 3 of us got to go that year. So my older sister Erin, younger brother Sean, and I, all 3 went together.
No, which year was that?
Oh gosh, maybe 2001.
I was at that one too.
You were there too?
I was there for a day. It's a different story.
Yeah, so we all got there, and it was an incredible experience to just be in the Superdome with 35,000 other LCMS people and just surrounded by youth, and it was an incredible experience overall. Although New Orleans in July is not my favorite. I would recommend going in November. That's a much nicer time, or in the spring, nicer time to be in New Orleans.
My wife and I took a vacation, I think, in January one time.
That's a nice time to be in New Orleans.
It was nice.
Yeah, walking around downtown, it was very humid and kind of smelly, but great experience. But one of the memories that always sticks out for me from that whole experience, of course, the three of us and the rest of the youth group, by the time we were ready to fly home, Aaron and Sean and I were all ready to be like, I need a break from you for a little while. We had been cooped up, all of us together, for a long time. But on the flight home, of course, Phil coordinating all of this, he was always determined that we were going to get the rock bottom lowest price on airfare possible, which meant we were going to take as many transfers as necessary to get you from point A to point B. So on the way home, we had been traveling for basically an entire day at this point, trying to get back after a long week, a long experience. And so at one point, we had a layover, but they kept us on the plane. We were taking the same plane. And so we were just sitting there. It was our entire youth group and then a few unfortunate other people who were not with our group. And they needed to fix something. I don't remember what it is, but we're just sitting and sitting and sitting. And everybody's getting antsy. And so I don't know how they talked their way into this, but my brother Sean and BJ Baker convinced the flight attendant to give them access to the intercom.
Oh my God.
And again, this is pre 9/11, so a lot of things happened that would never happen today, but they were on the intercom, so everyone on the plane can hear them, and they're like telling jokes, singing songs, which at this point the rest of us are like, oh my gosh, please no. But then I felt so bad for the people who weren't connected to us at all, who had no idea what's going on. And I don't know if it was either as a reward or as a encouragement to sit down and be quiet. The flight attendant gave them each a full bag of the little bags of peanuts.
Oh my goodness.
So they each had these giant bags of peanuts. But only the two of them would have talked their way into getting away with something like that. And again, never would have happened on a flight today. But
no.
That was a pretty classic Sean and BJ moment, amongst many classic Sean and BJ moments. One of my other favorite memories is Katerina Fisher, Jeff Aaron, and I. Again, we went through church and youth group together, but we also went through Marion High School together. And so we did a joint graduation open house here in the gym. And when we were setting up for that event, we each had our tables with our stuff that we all set up. But Baron Fisher and Dave Aaron were in charge of the helium to blow up all the helium balloons. And they had gotten all the balloons filled up that they needed to, and they still had helium left over. And they decided, well, we can't let this go to waste. So Mr. Fisher found one of the big black, industrial-sized trash bags, and they used that. Used the rest of the helium to fill up this giant trash bag and to make it into an enormous black balloon, which then they very proudly, you should have seen them, they were giggling like little boys. They were so proud of themselves, brought in and had tied off with balloon ribbon that then Mr. Fisher tied around my arm. And it was so big that my whole arm floated up in the air connected to this giant black trash bag balloon that they were very impressed with themselves for making, which their wives were not nearly as impressed because we had other things to do to get ready. but it still makes me giggle every time I think of how happy they were with themselves. Yeah, and I have one more, but
Okay, sure.
my other event or celebration that really sticks out is back when I was commissioned as a deaconess. I was able to do my commissioning here at St.
That's
James. Good. Yeah, back in 2010, so it's been a long time now. And Pastor Carlson this was right before he took his current call, so it was right before he left. So he was still here, and then my dad was still an elder, so he was serving for that service. And then Sean, who was finishing at the seminary, came and got to be a part of the service too, and actually gave the little homily or whatever. So to have all of them there and a part of that service, and then Linda Kretzinger in the choir learned a special song to sing. And just to do that here at St. James with that church community who had kind of raised me and encouraged me along the way was really, really special. So always have that memory. I have a picture I can show you later of from that service. So almost just shy of 15 years ago. So,
wow, that's great.
Yep, it was in June 25th.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are some of my favorite memories along the way.
Yeah, great. What are some significant changes that have happened that you've noticed through the years?
I think in my time, especially as a youth, the biggest change that made a big impact was when we added the addition on.
Oh, okay.
So I remember that was the time I think Katie Wallace shared when our Sunday school class was meeting in the old kitchen, which is now the library. And it was so cold in there during the winter. We would turn on the oven to try and warm it up a little bit, all huddled on our little fold-out metal chairs. So when they built on the addition, as a kid, as a member of the youth, I just remember feeling so special that the congregation would have built that whole loft, like an area just for us youth. And that felt really, it just made me feel really valued or special that the church would have thought to dedicate kind of a whole wing of that new building to us as the youth, and have so many great memories hanging out there, especially as a high schooler up in the loft. So I think that was the biggest, and just all the events and all the celebrations and parties over the years that have been held in that part of the church building now. So I think for me, that was the biggest change that really sticks out.
Sure. Yeah, it's quite a room up there. I mean. Yeah,
well, and to go from having gone from, we're kind of squeezed in wherever we can squirrel away a few youth, to having all that space was a big deal.
Yeah. That's really cool. How has St. James impacted your faith walk?
Well, I've already shared a lot about that, but St. James laid the foundation of my faith development for sure. I feel very privileged that, first and foremost, I was raised in a family that was in the church and that valued faith and brought me for all the years that I wasn't driving and couldn't get myself here. When we moved back to Marion, having the opportunity for a long time to get to worship with my grandparents. I think in my parents, when in their interview, my dad talked about how when we were young, we would get split up between all the adults, and that was mostly practical to keep us from being too loud or annoying each other or whatever. But that was really special to get to worship with Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa Willman, and when I was in college and they were slowing down and weren't driving as much themselves, I would pick up Grandma and Grandpa and bring us to church every Sunday. And so, yeah, I'm very privileged to have grown up in a family that valued faith and wanted to worship and wanted to be involved. And also, I feel very privileged to have grown up in the Lutheran faith. And as an adult, I can recognize that privilege in a way that I didn't as a child. But just that firm foundation of having the concrete doctrine that we have. I wrote down here that, I don't want to get emotional, but I am sorry. I think growing up here, not just in St. James, but in a church and a faith that we have solid doctrine. We value corporate worship and sacramental ministry. So I was taught that my faith in the church is something concrete and solid to hold firm to in a world and a life that is often chaotic and uncertain and can seem scary or full of turmoil at times. And so to have that to carry me through different stages of life, but also amazing mentors within the church, and especially having come back as an adult, I appreciate the heritage of service that I see in so many of our congregation members that I've known since I was tiny, who have consistently served. You know, we have elders who have been serving since I first joined the church, and Sunday school teachers, and now that I'm part of the Family Life Committee and helping with those Wednesday night events, getting to join in with the camaraderie of the kitchen ladies, and who have been quietly behind the scenes serving and preparing and feeding and helping the congregation celebrate in so many ways over so many years. And I just so appreciate all of that. And the older I get, the more thankful I am that I had the opportunity to grow up in that environment and to have those models in my life. Also, I think St. James, and again, I appreciate this in a way I never did when I was young, but having lived elsewhere and attended other churches, and through my role with Pregnancy Help Center, I get to visit other churches and speak there and interact with them. We are unique in that we have such a vibrant adult Sunday education time. And we have so much of the congregation, the adults who attend and who continue to want to learn and to be in the Word and ask questions and grow at every stage of life. And that is something that is unique. You don't see that at every congregation. And so to have that encouragement, to have those models of life, again, like Phil, that lifelong Christian education, it doesn't end with confirmation, or it doesn't end with high school graduation, that there's a place to dig in and to serve and to grow and to use our talents at every stage in the church. I think St. James has done that really well over the years, and giving people opportunities to do that within the church.
You know, they say that if your your church attendance is 29% of your, if your Bible study attendance is like 29% of your average church attendance, it's there on Sunday, that's a healthy church. And I would say we're more close to 50-60% on Sunday of you look how many people are in church on Sunday and how many people are in Sunday school. It is. I mean, it seems people have really been into that. I mean, we have three adult classes by themselves on Sunday morning, not to mention the kids. And so, in a lot of churches, I know even Missouri Synod churches don't even have Sunday schools anymore. And so that is this is Benny that's been probably with Phil and that, and established that years ago, and it's just become part of the
It's a legacy
DNA
now.
Yeah, it's the
which
DNA
a
of the
wonderful
church.
thing to keep passing on.
Because I was definitively surprised when I came and I said, I'm not the only person teaching. No, the other guy's class is bigger than yours. Like, oh, okay. Intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, also as somebody who did end up going to the seminary and my journey becoming a deaconess, and so much encouragement from the St. James congregation, and people who were excited about what I was doing and wanted, updates, and who believed in me. So that's really special too.
So what are your hopes for St. James' future?
So I think I'm not alone. Most of the people, we want to, we hope that we can connect with new people, new families and younger people, but people of all kinds who might want to come and join us to continue to grow and continue to be able to add to new generations of Lutherans and new generations of St. James attendees. Like you said, hopefully, we're celebrating the 75th anniversary. Hopefully we can be going strong to celebrate 100 and beyond.
Right.
I think that's a wonderful full goal. But I also think we are the LCMS presence in Grant County, and we want that to continue.
Yeah.
That is a good goal to have. I think ultimately our goal is to continue to faithfully be offering Word and Sacrament ministry here at St. James and within the Grant County community. And then I think larger than that, prayerfully finding that balance of remaining relevant in the time in which we are serving and connecting with the community of Grant County, while at the same time remaining true to that strong Missouri Lutheran doctrine and heritage, and finding that balance, not wavering on either side, because I think, like I said, I feel privileged to have grown up in that solid foundation, and I think our culture, our world desperately needs that. They may not know they need it, so we have to find a way to connect them to that is understandable or attractive. And so we have to find the right means of doing that without compromising on who we are and that doctrine. And so I think that's our challenge, but it's a worthy challenge, and I think we are worthy of, with the Lord's help, of meeting that challenge. Yeah,
there seems to be, I think our greatest strength is our doctrine and our liturgical worship.
Absolutely.
Because that's what, when people have, since I've been here, when people have walked in the door that have come from other places, that's what they've stated. Well, we wanted liturgy, and they kind of missed that, especially some that never had it. And then, if they really spend some time studying doctrine, that's where they tend to.
Well, and I think, like I said, we before in my faith formation, what I've so appreciated is that solid foundation, and that the church and my faith built, that I can cling to and come back to, and that's what people need, because individual leaders change, pastors, pastoral leadership will change. We've been fortunate to have multiple very faithful, wonderful pastoral leaders in our 75 years, but no one pastor is going to lead us forever. Musical trends come and go. So that's not what sustains. So we want to be strong in what is going to be sustainable and what is foundational, and everything else is everything else we can adjust, we can tweak, there are preferences, but I think that is one thing that can set us aside from other types of churches or other denominations, is that we have something that has remained the same, and Lord willing will remain the same.
Right.
For long beyond my lifetime.
Yeah.
which is a wonderful blessing, and is something that is concrete.
Right.
Yeah.
True. Was there anything else I didn't ask you or you wanted to share?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for coming in. Appreciate having you. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our 75th anniversary interviews, and we'll see you next week. Peace out.
Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true. St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, pushing through the night, feeling small, seeking the answers stall, windows of